So amid all the calls for Joe Biden to step down, I saw an article earlier today saying we could be seeing the end of the Joe Biden candidacy. Well, what could that look like? Well, it could be very, very messy. Here in a couple of weeks, there's going to be a virtual phone call where they are going to officially nominate Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee. At least that's the assumption. Joe Biden has twice the number of required delegates right now to lock in the nomination. He's not going anywhere unless he chooses to. And if he chooses to step down, the only person who should replace him, I've said it numerous times, is Kamala Harris. But why could it get messy? Well, if they try to pull something at the convention, you could end up with a brokered convention or something like that, and trying to replace him on the convention floor could end up with a lot of internal fighting among Democrats. After Joe Biden's the nominee, it could be very messy because now he is the nominee. You have to deal with ballots having been printed, filing deadlines in some states. The reason they are doing this virtual call on August 1st, I believe, and that is about as close as they can cut it, is because the date of the convention is after the filing deadlines in like two states. I think it's Ohio, and I want to say Arkansas or Alabama. And those states have not granted an exemption or an extension like they would have in the past to the Biden campaign to get the convention held. So if they try to do this after the convention, they run into not being able to change the ballot and filing deadlines. Now, if they try to do it before the convention, you also run into the problem where the delegates are pledged to Biden, and they are supposed to vote for Biden unless Biden releases them to vote for whoever he wants, or whoever they choose. So Biden's holding this thing basically until he says, I'm not running, unless they end up pulling some shenanigans. And then you got to worry about, okay, what happens if Joe Biden wins and something happens? Let's say he wins the nomination, they go through with it, and he wins the election, and then something happens. What happens then? Well, if they're after the election and Joe Biden becomes the president-elect for his second term, and he can't run, he can't physically function anymore, or whatever may happen, Kamala Harris would become president. She would probably become the president-elect. She might have to pick a vice president going forward. They may have to be confirmed by the Senate in the short window that they would have prior to January 6th, 2025, when they would confirm her and her vice president as the approved people, as the new incoming president. There's also some question as to whether or not she would be considered the president-elect after she wins the election or after January 6th. But that's an issue to deal with at that point. Another thing to consider is the Republicans have already said, at least some of them have said, if the Democrats try to replace Joe Biden, they're going to sue. Now, whether they will or not, I don't know. But they could try tying this thing up in the courts. And again, just more chaos, more confusion. These Democrats are scared, and they're going to make a mess of things if they're not careful.